Greetings, all! Today, we will be examining the relatively rare normal-type Pokemon Slakoth, the Slacker Pokémon, its rare evolution Vigoroth, the Wild Monkey Pokémon, and its final, exceptionally rare evolution Slaking, the Lazy Pokémon. While the evolutionary family might be a bit slow and all over the place in terms of their powers and abilities, the members of the Slakoth family are unique creatures that can eventually wield incredible power, though with some notable drawbacks.
Slakoth have four-legged semi-quadrupedal forms covered in light brown fur, with a pair of dark brown stripes on their back and a pair of long white claws on each of their feet. Their face features a pink snout source with pinprick black eyes with brown circles around them, and a wide face that seems to be in a perpetual smile in most cases. Their evolved form, Vigoroth, have a similar form as Slakoth, but they are mainly bipedal and their fur is turned white, with red paw markings on the underside of their hands, as well as gaining a short tail. Their mouth now has a pair of fangs in both the upper and lower jaws, and a dark brown lower mouth, their nose turning red as they develop a crest of red fur on their forehead. Lastly, the final evolution Slaking have much larger and bulkier forms in terms of girth, with darker brown fur covering most of their form, save for their broad bellies and chest, and they now sport humanoid hands with 4 fingers and a thumb. Their mouth features sharp fangs as with Vigoroth, and they have thick white hair covering their neck and upper chest, as well as the top and back of their head, their large pink snout once again defining the front of their face. Starting out, the members of the Slakoth family possess the slowest metabolism out of all known Pokemon, including the many species of bug-type Pokemon that must go through a cocoon stage as they evolve, which makes sense in regards to their close relationship to modern sloths. Sleeping and lolling about for about 20 hours every day, Slakoth in particular only need to eat 3 leaves a day to sustain a healthy life, as the stomach acids are extremely weak and require many days to ferment food into a form that can easily be converted into nutrients with little waste material. This slow metabolism is further exacerbated by the fact that Slakoth cannot exert much energy to attack or defend due to the overall lack of energy, and are so slow moving on the inside that the heart only beats once a minute. Though clogs rarely happen, as Slakoth have extremely diluted blood that can be forced through their bodies easily without much effort. This also causes issues in other areas, such as nesting. Since they almost never move, Slakoth usually only ever build one nest throughout their entire lifetime. However, Slakoth have been known to swim extremely long distances in the case of extreme emergencies, and are quite gifted in the water. Even with their slow metabolisms, Slakoth gradually build up excess amounts of fat on their body, so they may act swiftly in case their lives or homes are threatened considerably.
For reasons that are still not completely understood, Slakoth undergo a dramatic and rapid change as they evolve and become young adults.
In growing and preparing for the full powers of their adult form, the adrenal gland of these creatures grows way out of proportion and becomes more equivalent to a massive tumor than a necessary piece of organic equipment. This monstrous gland produces lethal levels of adrenaline at all times, and as a result, their heart begins to beat at a 10-fold tempo, rapidly increasing their metabolism and blood temperature to almost unbearable levels. The cause of this rapid transition is still a huge mystery, as it occurs without warning and with no clear cause, but it is possible that Slakoth may have originally taken on this extreme form in an attempt to become more active and convert them from a browsing diet to a more predatory one. The fact that Vigoroth are additionally quite aggressive is further reflected in their move selection, as while the moves they could learn in Slakoth are available to them through artificial help, their natural moveset is a bit different, gaining access to moves like Focus Energy, Uproar, Fury Swipes, Endure, Slash, Focus Punch, and Reversal. Their final evolution, Slaking, are on the opposite end of the scale once again, and tend to rely on grass for the bulk of their diet, as it grows just about everywhere and is easy to obtain, but even then they are rather lazy in obtaining it. Slaking generally rest on their side in one spot, and simply eat all the grass within their reach, and never get up otherwise. Once there is no more grass within their reach, they begrudgingly move to another spot and continue the activity. When fruit trees begin to bear fruit within a forest or jungle, hordes of Slaking will move to the trees and patiently wait for the fruit to drop down. Since Slaking have relatively low metabolisms like Slakoth, they can afford to wait for the fruit to drop on its own, and in fact, usually expend less energy simply waiting than they would to climb said tree or simply snap it in two to make the fruit fall. The wait is often worthwhile though, as the fruits tend to have many more nutrients within them than grass alone, and can keep Slaking sustained for weeks on end as they slowly ferment within their stomachs. Despite their imposing bulk, the majority of their interior is taken up by their stomach contents as a result of their weak stomach acids, leaving little room for anything else aside from the slow-beating hearts, lungs, and other essential organs, in addition to mounds of pure muscle bound to their relatively thick bones. While they may not look to be the most active of beasts as they are, as far as the stats are concerned in the case of Slaking, these monsters can potentially be total nightmares to deal with. Not only are they really only weak in terms of special defense, although the base stats being above average for a fully evolved normal type Pokemon, but they are truly among the strongest of beasts one could ever encounter, possessing the highest base attack stat out of all normal type Pokemon, tied with Regigigas, and the highest base stat total out of all non-legendary Pokemon, making them a genuine menace whenever they get the chance to use their power directly in a fight. For psychological reasons that are still somewhat mysterious, Slakoth have the unique ability to induce drowsiness and even laziness within other creatures just by being looked at. It seems that other creatures become entranced by the simple lifestyle simply by watching them, allowing themselves to become more like them in order to understand the meaning behind their carefree attitude. This has proven to be a dangerous tool against both opponents and the trainers of Slakoth alike. While Slakoth have little in the way of offense, the tendency for inducing laziness can prove to be an efficient way of lowering a tough opponent's guard. However, this can equally induce laziness within their own trainers, which can prove to be a devastating blow once they evolve into Vigoroth. This feat factors in perfectly in regards to the ability Slakoth in their adult form Slaking share, the Truant ability. Because their bodies are effectively running on little to no energy throughout most of the day, Slakoth and Slaking are either unable to move or otherwise prefer not to move as frequently as they should in battle, leading them to spend every other turn simply lolling about without doing anything to attack or defend themselves. Trainers should keep this in mind when training these creatures, as it can prove to be a devastating problem if not accounted for. The only significant advantage that it does actually offer is that it automatically negates the recharge needed after attacks like Hyper Beam and Giga Impact, but that is only because the time needed to rest on the time that Truant imposes for rest overlap completely.
As a result of the now hyperactive forms, Vigoroth have an extremely difficult time staying still and are always full of energy and vigor.
They are always on the brink of rampaging far beyond control, making them difficult for inexperienced trainers to handle. Even when they wish to sleep, Vigoroth must go on a final, extremely wild rampage daily before they can safely rest. This is because their blood's high temperature prevents them from resting unless it is cooled, which only occurs after a cycle through their body dozens or hundreds of times more than it normally should be, further explaining their access to vital spirit as their only possible ability. Due to their extremely high metabolisms, Vigoroth need to constantly eat high-energy foods like seeds and nuts, as they are generally herbivorous, but may occasionally attack and devour small animals that get in their way. However, they can still not rest for a moment even while eating, which is often unsettling in the eyes of people. While all this might seem like a major issue, it is unfortunately a necessary evil to deal with, as even sedatives have little effect on their movements. It is important that one realizes that keeping a Vigoroth still for too long is far more dangerous for its health than doing nothing at all. When Vigoroth are forced to stand still for long periods of time, their stress levels rapidly increase. If their bodies are put under too much stress, they'll quickly become sick and unable to function for some time. In addition, it is a bad idea to battle with a Vigoroth in extremely hot conditions, as the temperature of their blood will quickly rise towards lethal levels within a few minutes of exposure.
When Vigoroth evolve, the rest of the body finally grows to suit the size of their adrenal gland, in turn allowing them to revert to a lazy and careless lifestyle once again.
While the metabolism slows down a great deal, it is still far greater than that possessed by Slakoth. As a result, Slaking are far more mobile and active and have more than a bit of power backing them in any conflict. Although they might act extremely lazy, Slaking are amazingly agile and possess not only incredible physical power, but also incredibly high amounts of stamina and are effectively one of the most powerful Pokemon known to have ever existed. This lazy lifestyle often proves to be an efficient guard against opponents unfamiliar with Slaking, as these beasts have the ability to build up energy quite rapidly while resting. This allows them to attack with all of their might with every single strike without experiencing any fatigue, in turn making it extremely difficult for even the strongest of fighters to resist their attacks. Similar to Regigigas, however, Slaking are limited in battle because of their Truant ability, a natural form of absolute laziness that forces them to only act every other turn. Unlike with Slakoth, however, this ability comes as a result of choice instead of an actual need, as Slaking are so powerful in comparison to other life forms and so laid back that they don't really deem any opponent to be much of a threat. Moreover, Slaking are able to use their great bulk to a greater extent than Slakoth and Vigoroth, as they still learn most of the moves learned by the pre-evolved forms, but are benefited by the capacity to also learn the Swagger, Fling, Hammer Arm, and Mega Kick moves, the first of which right after they evolve, rendering them a terrible threat if their ability cannot be exploited.
These strange mammals can really turn out to be a serious case of whiplash to any trainer that takes on the challenge of trying to train them, and thus can require a bit of expertise to make the most of them. Slakoth are incredibly lazy for sure, there is no getting around that, but in their case it's more the issue of their biology and not an issue of motivation. In fact, they really can get up and go when they have the energy reserves to do so, doing their best to work through their ability in order to protect themselves against attack. Vigoroth are worse than any hyperactive child could ever be, their wild and untamed adrenaline coursing through them like it's nobody's business. This can make them genuinely hard to control and a real wild card for most, but at the very least they can be dealt with as long as you don't try and make them stand in one spot for too long. In their base stats alone, Slaking can be one of the scariest Pokemon you can imagine, just in terms of their overall power and strength. But at the same time, most will never get to see that at its full potential, just because of how lazy they are in any scenario. I understand that they are such because they really don't think anything can be a bother to them, and thus can make it hard to work with them. But at the very least, that means that, when they do get a hit in, it's likely to make the opposition crumple in a single blow.
Though they might be more trouble than they are worth to some, there is no doubt that the members of the Slakoth family have more than a bit of power to spare for those that are willing to stick with them for the long haul. It might take some time for them to get access to their full power, and even then, it might come with some serious restrictions, but just seeing what they can really do when they're at their full power can still make them worth trying out if you can work around their debilitating abilities.
Just do yourself a favor and try to stay out of the way if you can in the wild. They might not prove to be a problem as younglings, but as adolescents they can be irritating to resist, and any adult can easily cave your skull in, and the rest of you, without exerting much effort if you manage to bother them even just a wee bit too much.
Thank you all for watching this video. It always brings me great joy to see others enjoying the work I do to try and make the world of Pokemon and the fascinating creatures that lay inside of it feel as real as they possibly can. If you really enjoy my work, please feel free to leave a comment and subscribe, as I always do my best to respond to any and all comments that are left on my videos. In addition, if you wish to learn more about my work and help support it, you can find links to my Patreon page, as well as email and other contact information to my work on DeviantArt in the video description down below. Furthermore, you can find a link to my Discord server there as well if you'd like to get a first glimpse at what videos are coming up next and converse with other fans of the world of Pokemon. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and have a wonderful rest of your day.